Today's episode is brought to you by DeSanto Propane. DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane. From FingerLakes1.com, this is FLX Today, brought to you by DeSanto Propane. I'm Josh Durso, and this morning I'm joined by Chris Lejeski from the Montezuma Audubon Center in Savannah, Wayne County. Chris, thanks so much for taking the time this morning. How's summer going so far for you?
Great, Josh. It's been a wonderful summer at Montezuma Audubon Center. We're seeing visitors from all over the country come out and enjoy the entire Montezuma Wetlands Complex. We've got 30 miles of trails, 8 canoe and kayak boat launch locations, so ample opportunities for people to get out and explore, seeing bald eagles nesting, osprey, and a lot of birds like black terns nesting in new areas where we've never seen them before, such as the Montezuma Audubon Center. So all is well.
That's great. One of the questions that it's been a couple months since we've talked, but one of the things that's happened since the last time we talked is an uptick in wildfire smoke stemming from the Canadian fires, of course. Some days more noticeable than others. I'm curious if you've seen any impact out there, either to sort of the day-to-day operating visitor flow, or even just sort of how some of the animals might be acting out there.
We're not seeing any impact to birds or other wildlife at this point, and that's good news. We were impacted early on. I believe it was that first wave of wildfire smoke down in the Finger Lakes region way back in June, when we were still very busy with school field trips. Schools actually had to cancel, unfortunately, due to the hazardous air quality. But now that we've transitioned into the summer months, we are still seeing a lot of visitors coming out, enjoying all the trails, enjoying places where they can drive to and still see birds in their natural habitat in their vehicles. So their folks are still able to get out and enjoy and stay safe when the air quality does get to unhealthy levels.
Very cool. So let's start today with a recap of the water chestnut poll events, obviously an invasive species and something that you guys are doing every year, seemingly all the time, trying to keep the habitat in lockstep with what you are looking for. So talk to us a little bit about how those events went.
Yeah, we had 2 events earlier this summer, a late June and an early July event to remove water chestnut from places like the Seneca River around Howlands Island and a few other areas, marshy habitats as well. Now, the water chestnut is a fast-growing aquatic plant that can grow up to 16 feet in length. It has these really unique triangular shaped toothed leaves that float right on the surface of a river or marsh habitat. This time of year, we're starting to see white flowers forming, usually have 4 petals. And then the most distinctive trait of this invasive plant is the thorny nutlet that matures by the end of the summer. That nutlet is how this plant reproduces. They're very sharp nutlets, so they can puncture someone's foot or hand if they're not careful. So really nasty and invasive species. This plant is typically found in areas like the Seneca River and Clyde River, quiet, high nutrient areas, soft substrate, mucky areas, mucky soils, and we've got a lot of that at the Montezuma Wetlands Complex. If left unchecked and unmanaged, water chestnut can form impenetrable mats of vegetation, degrading the water quality and water clarity, eliminating the growth of native plants, and then making it almost impossible for people to recreate, enjoy boating, fishing, swimming activities. So we, over the last several years, have been hand pulling water chestnut from areas where the water chestnut is very sparsely growing. However, we have now actually we I shouldn't say we, because it's the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation acquired a new piece of equipment, a weed harvester. This is a game changer for the Montezuma Wetlands Complex in our battle against the water chestnut. To give you a sense for how effective this piece of equipment is, we were able to remove about 14,000 pounds of water chestnut from the Seneca River around Howlands Island just with 2 events and about 24 volunteers. So we had volunteers on shore helping to get the water chestnut off of the weed harvester. We also had volunteers out in canoes hand pulling water chestnut from the Seneca River where the weed harvester may have missed a couple of plants. So it was a great couple of events. After a morning of work, we enjoyed a pizza lunch with beverages, and that was all provided by the Friends of the Montezuma Wetlands Complex. So we had a great couple of events, and then in doing so, we're improving the habitat for species like the pied-bill grebe, the least bittern, and the black tern. And we are going to have more events coming up, more volunteer opportunities, great fun for the whole family. And folks can go to montezuma.audubon.org for all those volunteer opportunities coming up this summer.
Obviously, more efficient with this new piece of equipment, of course. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious, kind of ideal circumstance, how many times a year do you guys have to get out there to keep this thing in check, to keep the water chestnut population at a point where the habitat is able to still thrive and do its thing? What are you doing now or more?
We go out weekly from late June throughout July. So at this point, we are wrapping up the water chestnut pulling. We are going to have other habitat enhancement projects going on the rest of this summer. The reason why we kind of pulled back from water chestnut pulling in August and September is those nutlets have already formed, and it's very likely that the volunteers are going to potentially hurt themselves from gathering up the water chestnut plants. We don't want any injuries out there. So that early summer season, those nutlets haven't formed yet. But the plant has grown up to a long enough length that we can see the plant, remove the plant from these waterways.
Crucial time frame. Okay, so you've mentioned it a couple times. You've mentioned the black tern a couple of times. So there's 2 parts to this. First, our species spotlight of the month is on that very bird. And then the second part of that is there was a survey recently, correct, at the center. What were the findings?
Yeah, so this endangered species, the black tern, is found across the 50,000 acre Montezuma Wetlands Complex. In fact, Montezuma is one of the last remaining areas to find breeding black terns in the state of New York. This is a small, graceful tern, mostly black and silver in breeding plumage. It's about 1 foot long with a 2-foot wingspan. It typically forages in flight, going after aquatic organisms. So it's going to capture these aquatic organisms while it's flying. It can also go after insects that are flying around these marshy habitats. The black tern typically nests low in marshy habitats, often just on some floating vegetation. Sometimes it will nest on muskrat huts as well. And being an endangered species, we are very concerned about the well-being of the species. So every year in June or sometimes July, we'll go out, volunteers and staff, and look for the black tern. Very happy to report to you that we found 96 black terns during this year's survey. That is well above the long-term average of 61. Now, we found these terns in some of our usual marsh habitats, the places where we typically find them, places like the main pool of the Refuge and Shockey Pool and the Sandhill Crane Unit. However, this year we also found black terns nesting at Montezuma Audubon Center and other New York State Department of Environmental Conservation habitats. That's a great sign that Montezuma continues to have healthy marsh habitats for this species and many other bird and other wildlife species. We're very happy with that effort. We know that our habitat enhancement projects are doing what we hoped that they would do, provide that critical habitat. And it's great to have community members participate in surveys like this. And we're going to have many more opportunities for the public to get involved in these activities and habitat enhancement projects throughout this year and even during the winter months. Surveys such as the bald eagle survey take place during the winter months. So there's always something to do at Montezuma. And if folks are interested in getting involved, they can check out our website, montezuma.audubon.org, for all the details.
And we've also got some hiking opportunities coming up beginning in August and wrapping up in September. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Montezuma Audubon Center is really proud to be partnering once again with the New York State Power Authority to lead the On the Canals excursions. We're going to be leading these starting August 4th and going right on through to September 9th. They'll take place every Friday and Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. These are perfect for the entire family. They're going to be about a mile in length, mostly over flat terrain. And these are free excursions, thanks to the support of New York State Power Authority. The focus of these hikes is going to be on pollinator species and habitats. So species like birds and butterflies and dragonflies and damselflies that are critically important to grassland habitats and marsh habitats, as well as to our food sources. Insects and birds often pollinate food that we end up eating. So we're going to take folks through some grassland habitats, explore the native wild flowers and grasses in these unique ecosystems, search for grassland birds and butterflies and other insects, and we'll also highlight how these areas are managed by biologists and other scientists across the Montezuma Wetlands Complex. Space is limited for all these excursions. And we are taking online reservations, even though they're free. Folks can go to montezuma.audubon.org, click on our programs and events tab, and then folks will see the entire list of dates and times available. Just click on that date, enter your information, and you'll be all registered.
Awesome stuff. And finally, the 26th annual Montezuma Muck Race. That's taking place in early September. Registration is now open, right?
Yeah, really excited about the 26th annual Montezuma Muck Race taking place September 8th and 9th. So that's a Friday to a Saturday. Things are going to kick off on that Friday, September 8th at 7 p.m. And the birding competition goes right on through to Saturday, September 9th at 7 p.m. It's a birding competition, but it's a friendly competition. And really the main point of it is to get out with family and friends and enjoy the Montezuma Wetlands Complex while raising funds for our friends of the Montezuma Wetlands Complex. After a day of birding, everyone is welcome to join us back at the Montezuma Audubon Center for a pizza dinner and the closing ceremony where prizes will be given out to the teams that found the most birds during the competition. We're hoping that we can break the records we set last year for the 25th annual competition, where we had 145 birders and 35 teams participate. Now, teams can be in a variety of categories. They can be family, recreational, youth, low carbon, which is actually no carbon because the teams that are birding in that category are just hiking or paddling or riding the bikes to find as many bird species as they can. Fun way to get out and bird. There's also a collegiate division, a photograph, and a competitive category. And last year, we raised over $17,000 for the Friends organization. And all that money raised during Muck Race supports bird conservation, wildlife habitat improvement projects, and public access across the Montezuma Wetlands Complex. If folks are interested in registering or finding out more or sponsoring a team, they can go to friendsofmontezuma.org for all the details.
Great stuff and exciting stuff, Chris. As always, thanks for the time. We appreciate it. We'll be talking to you next month.
Thank you, Josh.
That'll do it for this edition of Finger Lakes Today. If you'd like to see more conversations like this one, check out the show on your favorite podcast platform or subscribe to the FingerLakes1.com YouTube channel. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.